Aldous.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I recognise the enormous challenges that many households are facing in struggling to pay their energy bills. But there would be unintended negative consequences arising from such a tax raid, and I shall briefly outline what they are. I make these observations as an MP representing a constituency where many people work in the oil and gas sector. As chair of the offshore oil and gas APBG, and as a supporter of offshore wind, a technology with which the oil and gas sector is increasingly collaborating. First of all, it is necessary to set the context. Extraction of oil and gas on the UK continental shelf over the past 55 years has brought an enormous dividend to the UK. It has provided heat for our homes and businesses, has created hundreds of thousands of well-paid and highly skilled jobs, expertise that we have exported around the world, and importantly for successive chancellors, much-needed revenue. Extracting oil and gas in the North Sea is not straightforward. It is a difficult basin in which to work. It needs a stable fiscal regime so as to attract investment which is globally footloose. Some might say that as we move towards zero carbon economy, this matters less and we should not be promoting further investment in the North Sea. The response is that we need this investment as we will continue to use oil and gas, albeit in lesser amounts for some time, and this funding is required so as to secure a just and optimum transition to a zero-carbon economy where we can add to and enhance the skills and expertise built up over the last half-century. It's necessary to highlight that the existing tax system is working well, without the need for a windfall tax. The UK oil and gas industry will pay about £3 billion in extra corporation tax as a result of the global rise in gas prices. It is appropriate to look at the consequences of previous windfall taxes, most recently that of the coalition government in 2011. After all such previous increases, the Treasury has had to offer incentives to claw back investment onto the UKCS. This additional fiscal risk puts a cost premium on investments compared to most other nations, in particular Norway, which is seeing an economic surge and which is well ahead of the field in the race to zero carbon. The North Sea oil and gas industry has a key role to play in the drive towards the zero carbon economy. This is evidenced in the North Sea transition deal from last March. I will give way to the honourable gentleman.
Extremely grateful to him for giving way, but will you reflect on the point made by the member for Aberdeen South that there was a huge mistake not to create a sovereign wealth fund to accumulate that money from the 80s and 90s onwards and then to be able to reinvest that in the transition that we now face?
I thank the honourable member for that intervention. He may well be right, but that was a decision that was made 55 years ago. Norway has, I think, far bigger resources than we do, and of course it's a much, much smaller population and country. So that is a debate for another time. I understand where he's coming from, but there is another side to that particular argument. I will give way. We mustn't.
I thank him for giving way. The fact that Norway is a small independent country actually backs up Scotland's argument to be independent, is it not? Consider Norway's got a $1.3 trillion sovereign wealth fund.
Norway has done. I think we're actually on the same side of the argument here. Norway has done remarkably well. And there are lessons to be learned there. And I was actually pointing to the fact that they have that stable fiscal taxation regime, which has enabled them to be at the forefront of the drive towards a low-carbon economy. The North Sea transition deal from last March has basically enabled the industry to deliver investment of up to £14 to £16 billion by 2030 in new technologies such as carbon capture and storage and hydrogen. Madam Deputy Speaker, whilst the supply chain of the oil and gas industry extends right across the UK, activity tends to be concentrated on the North Sea coast, in North East Scotland, around Aberdeen, on Tyneside and Teesside, and in East Anglia around Great Yarmouth and Lowestoft. These are coastal communities that have their own particular challenges, and it would be very wrong to add to them at this particular time. Off the East Anglian coast, there are exciting opportunities to promote a prosperous transition in the southern North Sea by redeploying infrastructure and expertise from the oil and gas industry to create a leading hydrogen production and CCUS hub around the Bacton gas terminal in my honourable friend, the member for North Norfolk's constituency. I'm concluding, Madam Deputy Speaker. The energy price crisis presents many people with enormous challenges, and I look forward to scrutinising the government's proposals for addressing it, which will probably come forward next week. Whilst a windfall tax, at first glance, may be a compelling way of meeting that challenge, it would have untold negative consequences. Thank you.